Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, or what the fuck ever, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tangents, the only show on the internet that cares about you. Just kidding, we don't. What we do care about is making tons of money based upon your love. It's the only way we get acceptance in the world. Anyway, with me tonight, yes, Actitect says we better have some pink gear. I do have a Nymphis up here. I could show that to you. I'm Andrew from beautiful sunny Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm getting over being sick, so my voice sounds extra sexy tonight and a little bit clogged up. So if I start hacking all over the place, just remember I'm doing it out of love. And speaking of love, the man that does everything out of spite, Das Christoph. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. So I made a tactical error on Monday, and I got the second dose of the shingles vaccine right before flying on Tuesday.
Nice.
And I got to say, that second dose makes you very sick. So I'm really glad to have done it. but it was brutal. It's a lot like having a really good flu.
Congratulations.
Better. And I'm out here now at the Orange County studio, and I have my emotional support synthesizer with me.
Important.
So I'm very excited.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad that you made it there successfully, and thanks for not getting shingles along the way.
Yes. Surprisingly, because they normally don't give the shingles vaccine to people that are clearly only 29.
True.
But they made an exception for me.
Well, it's because you're so beautiful. They didn't want you to, ruin it with the shingle.
They were afraid of the spike.
Understandable.
Yep.
And
now the shingles is afraid of me.
That's right. And speaking of being afraid of things, Jeff is also here tonight. Jeff, welcome back. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So phlegmy.
Yes. What's new in your world?
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Let's see. I tried to buy an NPC.
Yes.
I succeeded buying an NPC. It just turns out that the mail system doesn't want it to work. So they jumped up and down and ran it over with a truck. DNKTRL says, yes, my cabinet is on fire. This is my humidifier. It's very dry down here in the basement.
It's your emotional support humidifier.
It is. And it's my synthesizer's emotional support humidifier. So I did that. And then also in better electronics news, I've been looking at getting a nice tape deck for a while. Nobody makes nice tape decks anymore. That's a fun tangent if anybody wants to go down it. I learned why people don't.
Yes.
But the best tape machines, tape decks, seem to have been made by a company called Nakamichi in the late 80s. So I found a fully refurbed Nakamichi tape deck, and I'm now the proud owner of that, and it works great.
Nice.
And that was super exciting. And
which Dolby's does it support?
All the Dolbys.
It does A, B, C, X, NX. I don't. It's got.
No, that is all of them. So there's MX, which is on top of A, B, and C. There was also S and NR, I believe.
It might not have S, but I think it has all the others.
S wasn't really on consumer level gear. And I know this is a pro deck, but it was used. I think S is something you only really saw on multi-track decks, not on
It is a
two-player decks.
multi-head. It's a 3-head deck.
Yeah, that I totally believe. But I mean, you can't record on 4 tracks at once.
That is.
So that's what I mean. I think Dolby S was only on the Porta Studios.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Porta Studios had S and NR, but I might be mistaken about that. Also, I think S came out after that deck.
Yeah, the deck was 86 or 87.
And I think S came out mid-90s.
Okay, then if S is mid-90s, it definitely is newer than the deck. But it's pristine, and it sounds so good that it doesn't sound like tape, which is kind of weird. I don't know how to feel that.
Yeah.
The hiss is
Well, when you record with Dolby C, it eliminates a lot of the hiss, especially with the MX Pro, which fixes a lot of the high end, which is where a lot of the hiss is.
That was exciting. That's going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have very low humidity in here. It's 29% right now, but the basement has to stay pretty dry. So, as Justin knows, I just make everyone in here wear ESD bracelets all the time.
Trying to get it back to 50. It looks like it's at about 40 right now.
Yeah. Well, I have a dehumidifier in the other room, and then this basement's all sealed and stuff like that, so it's very low humidity down here. Yeah, so he would electrocute himself at every chance and
what if you just kept
reboot systems and stuff.
What if you just kept an inch of water on the floor?
I was thinking about that, but it's also carpeted. And that probably
that would keep it. I mean, that just lets it dissipate smoothly. Just the wicking action lets it dissipate smoothly over.
There you go. That's true.
No, you should put a humidifier in that room so the humidifier and the dehumidifier can fight it out.
Right.
And you should tape a lightsaber to each one of them.
Well, that's the problem. That's of course the natural solution, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think so. So yeah, well, Jeff, I'm glad that you got a new tape player, and I'm sorry to hear that the U.S. mail has failed you. Not surprised, but I do apologize for that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what will never fail you, and that's Justin. Justin, tell us how you haven't failed us this week. Wow. Really? Hang on.
So right now I'm in roll up my sleeves mode until I decide to jump off a building, and at which point I'll stop.
Don't do that. I can help.
So
I can make it. I think I can make it pretty easy for you.
cool. Thanks, Jeff. I've learned some cool tricks just on reading and on the interwebs, and I found some interesting things that are actually, for me, like the reason I think I hated mixing is because it was brutally technical, but you can actually do some really creative stuff with it, and I think that's starting to interest me. Like, especially using buses and using different effects and stuff. I think it's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I'd love to share some of these ideas with you, Jeff, get your opinion. But yeah, I mean, my original selfish thing was because the Ghost Terminal project is held up in sort of mixing hell, and so I'm like, but I have other ambitions. So. But I got some equalizers for my speakers. They're currently to try to help deal with my room, because my room is just not good. So that was fun, because I had to I have two audio interfaces, and I had to come up with a creative schematic for how to connect everything to the equalizer. But I think I'm there after crawling around on my knees for a couple hours, which is normal.
That's how you make your money.
But yeah, also, I think that's kind of about it. Got some new software, updated Pigments, but we'll talk more. But we'll talk about that later.
You know it. Very good. How about me? Well, let's see here. I updated some software. I was in Nashville last weekend for some stuff, and I brought my emotional support deluge with me, and made some amazing music on the plane. Like, I call one of them, "Please Don't Stop Kicking My Chair." Oh God, I'm Tired. Why Does Everybody Suck? And Oh Good, We're Delayed. Those are the songs that I wrote. The album is going to be called Music for Airplanes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you just make sure Brian never hears it, and you'll be fine.
Like, if you saw this demo, how could you not play "Please Stop Kicking My Chair"?
Right?
Like, I want to hear that.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just it's just kind of fun just to fuck around.
Stop Kicking My Chair is for sure a country song. I don't know who's recorded it, but I am confident.
Yeah, probably.
Please stop chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's. Trying to think of anything else. Like I said, updated some software. I added not enough knobs to my Moog semi-modulars, and we'll talk about that later as well. Right. DNK Triel. Well, I hope you have a great time in Tel Aviv. Sleep well for the next couple of hours, and enjoy the food. Hugs and kisses.
Try to pick up some Israeli synths.
Yes. Dream of wonderful synthesizers. Wow. Trying to think if there's anything else that happened. Oh, I bought a drum set. Yeah, I bought it's an electronic little Alesis electronic drum kit.
Oh, nice.
That was like a Black Friday sale for $300, and I'm just kind of like, you know what? Why not? And I
know someone else who just bought one and loved
it. Really small is the only downside. Like, it's really short, so I need to come up with a better way of putting it so it's a little bit higher. But it's fun. I mean, I'm not a proficient drummer, but I can keep a beat, and that's what I'm doing on it. And just, come down here and just wail on it for a little while when I'm not feeling creative. Yeah.
The best thing about it is that even if you're not playing it good enough to use, you'll just compose differently when you're playing with your wrists.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Instead of your fingers. Mm-hmm. So I started with electronic drums. That's how I got into electronic music. or making it, I mean. It took me a couple of years, but eventually I figured out what I play with my hands, with my wrists, is very different than what I play with my fingers, and completely different than what I sequence.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've owned electronic drum kit pads before, not like a whole kit, but just like 4 like the Roland V drum pads and a brain.
Oh, those are fantastic.
Oh yeah, we used it in Missile Command when we covered Oingo Boingo's Insanity and Machine Gun from Portishead.
I've always wanted to get the V drum pads, so I have the old the Roland Triangle pads.
Oh yeah, the hardwood ones with a piece of rubber on them.
So one of them, when you hit the side, each side is also a trigger.
Oh, okay.
So 2 of those, and then 2 where it's just the center. And then after that, I got a Roland TD7 kit, which is still rubber pads, but they're circular and small, and will still give you carpal tunnel very quickly.
Oh god, yeah.
Whereas those V drums, they will not, because they have a proper return.
Oh yeah.
Because you're not just banging on a piece of wood.
Right. Yeah. And these are mesh. These are all mesh drums and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So those mesh drums are much nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the old wood panel with the piezo
The
sensor
cymbals
on
are
it.
dumb on this thing, but I mean, I kind of
So I
expect
will
that.
add that actually I got the carpal tunnel syndrome not from the drumming, but from gymnastics. But it always aggravates my carpal tunnel pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I could see that.
But
yeah, so I picked one of those up, and this, like I said, it's been fun. I just come down here and I, plug in some audio and play along with stuff for now and that kind of thing, and just kind of, it's just a thinking differently and thinking, about rhythm and stuff like that in a more creative way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If you CD that you don't actually need to know much about drums to be wildly successful at playing them.
Oh yeah, right.
Boom, bap, boom, boom, bap. That's it. That's all you need.
Oh yeah,
Really.
yeah,
Thank
yeah. I'm not jumping on like the Neil Peart train or anything
It's
like
weird,
that.
though.
So I'm not like.
Well, I think electronic drums are their own thing, and I've always loved the hell out of them. Some of my favorite people who use them successfully is like Terry Bozzio from Missing Persons. Really good electronic drum work. But I've also found a lot of live bands, even industrial and sort of darkwave bands, will have live electronic drums going just to sort of liven up the show. And I've always found it to be a good, I think Soft Moon does that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good choice.
No, I completely agree. So yeah, it's just something fun to mess around with, and there's some space in the studio for it. So I tucked it in back there, and eventually I'll clean the boxes up that they came in because that was a bitch. But that's what we got. But we're not here to talk about drums, no sir. We are here to talk about electronic synthesizer devices and all the news that's fit to talk about from the past 2 weeks. So why don't we get started? Who wants to drive the news train?
You're good.
All right. Choo choo. You are the engineer of the news train. All right. We're going to get started here with Arturia. They'll be in the news a couple times here tonight. We're going to get started from a few weeks back when they released the plugin for the Mini Freak. An identical version of the Mini Freak, but in plugin size. But you can only get it if you're a Mini Freak owner. They're taking a page out of Korg's playbook a little bit here and doing it this way. So if you already are a Mini Freak owner, that's cool. But if you're not, well...
And why not?
Yeah, I don't
Go
know
get a
about
Mini Freak already.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, they are
excited.
No
Really
one's ever
cool,
said
no lie.
that Mini Freak, that's not a great deal. People love it.
Yeah.
It's got how many oscillator engines? 16?
That's Micro Freak, I think.
You're thinking the Micro Freak, yeah?
You're absolutely right. Never mind.
Got the panel, the capacitive keys that looks like a easel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Mini Freak is like the keyboard sort of upgraded version. Well, it's not really it's cross grade
More in
kind of. I
competition
don't
with
know.
like the Hydrosynth Explorer, I think, than.
Oh my God, I feel like Rosanna Rodana right now.
Was it the human feet or was it the feces one that
She did a bunch of them, but it was always because she read it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, endangered feces.
And
That was the one that I was.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Mini Freak, not the Micro Freak. The Mini Freak, with the recently released synthesizer. It just came out like about a month ago, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they're real similar. In some ways, they've actually kind of downgraded some of the capabilities, but then
from what I understand, I know a lot of people actually really are digging the Mini Freak. It's been getting some really good reviews and stuff like that. It's 2 engine, 6 voice, 22 oscillators. 22 oscillator modes, I should say.
I think it's real cool. I despise Mini.
Yeah, I wish they had
so
like a desktop version without the keys at all.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You could use that real estate for other stuff. To me, like, and I have mixed feelings about the Mini Freak V because, well, first of all, the thing has real analog filters, I think, right?
Yes.
Actual hardware. So obviously they got digital recreation of those filters, which is something, of course, Arturia would be qualified to do. But at the same time, it's weird. Like I thought, are they trying not to compete with themselves? Is that why they're not selling it? Or are they just sort of like, being elite right now and then eventually they'll release it? Because I have much more interest in the VST of the Mini Freak right now than I would the hardware because I don't really have room for shit.
I agree. I feel that like I would rather get just the plug-in. It doesn't because I think that the thing is it doesn't seem to be adding anything that you don't already have in the hardware, except that you can throw it on your laptop and bring it with you.
Yeah, if you want to be a purist and whine about analog filters, then I guess.
Yeah, but you're not getting anything different. Like if they're just like, we made the Mini Freak, but we also just gave you 60 more voices or something like that, or something stupid.
Well, it's kind of the same. The rest of it is it's a fucking, it's a VST in a box.
So you run multiple instances. That's nice.
Yeah.
Make multi-tracking easier if you can't hear the difference in the filters.
Sure.
That's true. Well, I think arguably the hardware is better. It's just one of those things where your point of entry, should be maybe a little lower.
It also gives you more modulation from what I understand, I think, in the software version. Just because because you have an expanded modulation matrix in there.
Can't you? Does it have a connection where you can mirror? You can control
I'm sure
the one with the other. I think it does.
It would be a really cool this just reminded me of this. Synthesizer. This one's free. You can. It's a very good idea. For companies that are doing things like this, like Arturia, who are making a plug-in version of their synth, they should offer the plug-in as a free demo.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only have the plug-in if you buy the physical. But here's the plug-in as a free demo to use for a week.
Mm-hmm.
%.
Yeah.
That, especially in the era of it's so hard to try a lot of these things at stores, you have to buy them online. That would be a monster selling feature for a lot of people, especially with the proliferation of digital synthesizers or largely digital hybrid synthesizers. Yeah. People would eat that up. I bet synthesizer companies, you'd have to develop the software, but in the case of companies that already have the software, I bet you could sell a lot more hardware by doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, a good model of that is Roland because of their plug out technology, their ACB stuff. They made all those plug outs as a vehicle to sell that hardware, whether System 1 or the System 8. And nobody would have bought a System 8, I don't think, if they couldn't have checked out.
I don't think a lot of people bought the System 8 anyway.
First. Well, System 1, people bought a ton of them. I'm sure they're lining dumpsters now, but at the time, people bought them.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, one of my favorite bands is using a System 1. So, so that's the number H. That's her main unit. That and a software sampler. That said, I think the reason why they're not doing Jeff's model is the concern of, all right, we put this out there and it's a demo, and then someone cracks it and it's not a demo, and then it guts their hardware sales.
That's possible.
So it could be that that's the concern, but I see your point because it'll showcase what the synth can do.
Sure.
And both are valid. So it's hard to say, but I can imagine that's why they're not doing it, because they're concerned about, hey, our VSTs going to decimate our market the way VSTs decimated the sampler market? Mm-hmm. And the thing that's, been a real pushback, for the hardware market has been things that software doesn't do great, like analog modeling, which is why units like this have done very well, especially when they're affordable. But if it's something that digital will do just as well, it's hard to sell a hardware wavetable synth when people can just get Serum for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, and arguably, I saw some people on Syntopia making comments in the forum, and they're like, hey, Pigments can do pretty much most of this stuff too. And it's kind of like the way the entry, like some of it is like, it's sort of like, I'm trying to find a polite way to say this. The sort of like hipster production stuff where, you have the icon of a jar full of drizzle or something, and it's like, I don't really know what it does. It's the drizzle jar,
right.
And I, turn the knob. That they've got kind of those features in there where it's fine, and I see a lot of plugins that do that. They just have like a fucking smiley face on there, but like to me, like this is fine.
This is the goes to 11 knob, that kind of thing. Yeah,
it's fine. I mean, look, I bet it makes shit fun to play with. I'm not gonna lie, and the screen on the thing looks really nice. So
yeah,
small but nice.
Fucking mini keys, man.
Yeah, I'd say use the sequencer on it,
right?
And fuck the keys, like
use
it
pretty
like
much.
a beat step,
key step.
Key step.
So yeah, the Arturia Mini Freak plugin. If you're a Mini Freak owner, you can download it, go grab it, have fun with it, knock yourself out. Us non-Mini Freak owners will sit here and cry while you do.
You know what else is small but nice?
Jeff, I didn't know if this is a family show, Jeff.
It already started out bad with me calling on the floor, and now we're.
I mean, how do you think families get made, Andrew?
Robots?
Sometimes when a stork loves another stork very much.
Yeah, I'm just imagining the stork from from the money. What's that?
I said then they come together and they make a USB audio interface, and it's got 32-bit converters.
They do, and that is the SSL 12. This is the result of two storks in love. 12 inputs, 8 outputs, 32-bit converter, USB audio interface. It is got the industrial design of something built in a garage, and I'm kind of here for it because it looks like you could probably beat someone to death with this thing.
How many hit points of damage?
I would say it's probably like probably like a 10 like a 2d10 plus 4.
And I got to say, this looks like a piece of hardware that will not blend.
Yes. Oh no, I think that will probably destroy the blender.
Yes.
It reminds me actually a lot of the Audient ID444 that I have. The design of it is very similar. The function of it is very similar. Looks good.
Yeah, it is a very nice looking audio interface. All like breakout box style looking thing. Like I said, 32-bit converter, 12 input, 8 output.
So there is something really notable about this that is small, but really will matter to people that it matters to, which is that it does 62 dB of gain, which is unusual.
Yes.
60 is the standard for most of these mic inputs, and 60 is the minimum recommended for like an SM57 or 58.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody who's using sort of like a low power dynamic microphone, this could get you over the hump there.
Yep.
It might even let you use an SM7B without a cloud lifter. I'm not sure if it would. Those extra 2 dB, I'm not sure if they'd get you over the hump there or not, but it might.
I think it's like a little bit. I think it's like 65 or something like that for yeah. I can't remember, but I have one, but I just never use it because it's a pain in the ass to measure up. Also, the price on this thing for an SSL, it's about $450.
And for SSL, that's a lot. And I mean that's a bargain.
Yes.
So you're getting that name, and we're assuming you're also getting that level of quality.
Right.
But the other thing that you're getting here is that ADAT interface, which you don't see on the other 4x4 interfaces.
Right.
So if you have an ADAT outbox, which is a big expense, but if you have one or you're in that market, this does expand you. This does create another big interface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. because otherwise it's only got like 4.
And-
I guess those are mono
They're
or
mono.
stereo inputs.
They're mono.
Mono. Yeah. I mean, look. Yeah. I mean, to me, these don't make sense because I'm not a desktop interface person. But and it's also interesting to me that they've got a legacy mode on there. And they're like, it says analog style 4000 series console color, and I'm like, well, I thought SSL was famous for being digital, but hey, why not? But I bet people will buy this just for the pre's, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could just see
guessing
just using this thing as like a mic pre and it's like blowing away pretty much everything I have.
Yeah.
Jekko says Lisa does 7.1 on the outputs. I still kind of dig using Sound Blaster 7.1 in a mixer with some XLRs and RAAs. Indeed.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a huge fan of the Sound Blaster series. So, I mean, I can't say anything bad.
Yeah.
I loved my Sound Blaster AW32. It was my first decent sample.
Oh yeah, that was great for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Justin, on the not digging the desktop. Like the ID44 that I picked up as a desktop, but I couldn't find anything that did what I wanted in a rack unit. And I've got the ADAT front end to it, so mine winds up being a 20N setup. But the ADAT stuff now, like, I mean, it's not cheap, but if you compare, like, I don't know, I looked at the, what do you call it? The UA stuff. And honestly, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak blasphemy here. I'm not impressed by UA at all. I think their big studio gear has always sounded super, super good. But those interfaces that they make, I think, are like extra medium. And if you don't want the plug-in, plug-out thing that they do as part of it, like, I don't think that, if you don't want that, like, I don't think they're a very good choice. But I wound up getting this ID44, and there's a company called Ferrofish that makes a product called the Pulse 16. That's a 16 in, 16 out ad DAC, and they're grand. And so you can get one of those, and you could get this along with one of them, or an ID44. And I think I haven't heard this SSL, but there's that SSL that's the 2 in, 2 out, and those sound super good. And I think the audience stuff sounds like really, really good. I was down between the Audient and some RME interfaces, and I mean, the RME won in terms of like quality, but it was like $7,000.
Wow.
This one,
Yeah, it's that balance between, are you going to be and I'm sure our audience is probably a mixed bag, but what's your main focus? I mean, like our friend Adam, right? Like he's a mastering engineer for a living. So, his rig is going to be expensive.
Yes. No, it is. Yeah.
If you're a bedroom producer, you have to sort of judge, how much you're going to spend on something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's really the thing is what is this stuff made for and everything. And I think that for SSL to come up with something that's kind of more like a designed for folks like, in the bedroom producer and stuff like that, it's actually pretty cool of them. So,
yeah. I like the fact that they do the thing everybody should do, which is put headphones jacks on the fucking front of everything.
Yeah, I wish that was more common.
yeah.
But yeah, it seems like they're really trying to go after this sort of home producer who would like the analog stuff. Like they got the big 6. They've done these things. Seems like they're trying to do some good stuff,
Which is cool.
Good on you.
I gotta say, before we move to the next story, you reminded me, Justin, and I need to plug Adam's new album. Bias Selector is the name of the act. Christoph, I think this is right up your alley. His first album, Music for Eating, was kind of sounded like Severed Heads in a way. This one sounds a lot more like old era, like probably Tragedy. No, not Tragedy for You. Probably more like Official Version era Front 242.
That's good.
Nice.
Bumping into Cleanseful Manipulate Skinny Puppy, but it's all instrumental. And I am Music for Prey is the new album, and I just put the link up into the chat.
Yeah, I didn't even know he released a new.
Yeah, it just came out a few weeks ago. He's playing Friday. If you're in Cleveland, he's playing at No Class with Sam Harmon, Glacial 23, and some other acts. So, yeah, I'm going to be there to check it out, but it's really fucking good. So I highly recommend everybody get the copy of that.
I'll listen to that after the
you
show.
might find some stuff to play in your show.
Yeah. Adam is a
He
very
really
talented
is.
dude.
So yeah, end of plug. Speaking of plugs, hey.
Speaking of plugs, I'm excited for Justin's new album when
Me
it's
too.
done.
I'm excited for
we'll
all the
see.
new music when it's done. Speaking of plugs,
Yeah.
Eventide.
Oh, Kitty.
their plug-in holiday sale goes on until January. So if you thought you missed it, you were wrong. You can get all kinds of garbage for up to 75% off.
All kinds of
Up to January 2nd, 2023.
Wow.
You're using this away.
You're definitely losing that at
Our
sponsorship.
good friends.
Yeah.
No.
Honestly, I bought the Eventide Black Hole last year, and I really enjoy that one. But I don't have the whole H9 plugin suite. And the Black Hole was a bargain. I didn't pay that much for it, but it's a good reverb.
Oh yeah, their stuff is good.
I love the Black Hole
I say
plugin.
garbage in the nicest way possible. So yeah, this is like I said, the holiday sale. Black Hole's going for 85% off right now. The H3000 Factory is going for 70%.
And
Yeah,
that's worth
it
it.
is absolutely.
If you don't, the thing is, I didn't have any. I only have like 2 reverbs that I like, and there's still. I don't have like that one reverb sound that I really want. But the Black Hole's very good, and I have a PSP that I really like. But I still have like my dream reverb yet.
And this is.
I miss hardware reverbs, man. I'm almost thinking about going back to hardware reverb.
Yeah, those old Lexicons and the old Eventides are just fantastic.
Yeah.
What's that one?
And the reason why I don't have the reverb I really want is because they cost thousands. And I don't.
Yeah. Even the low end, what are they? The PCM 70s, the Lexicons, they're still like they'll run you like
crazy.
1,200, and they're like, gosh, what are they? 30 years old?
More.
Yeah, more.
So yeah, what was it? The 80, I think. And that came out in the 80s. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is also keep in mind that if you are buying some Eventide stuff, it does require iLok. So you can use the software version. You need to actually plug up an RS-232 ports with an iLok click.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because the Strymon stuff uses the iLok, but it will only auth it to the cloud, which is uber annoying because if you don't have the iLok cloud. So if you don't have connectivity, you can't use the fucking thing. And it also, there's a slight delay when you first turn the plug on because it's like, hey, I need to go talk to the mothership.
That's fucking
I'll be right.
Do you need to do it every time or just sometimes?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
With the iLok authentication, do you have to do it every time you start it or like once a month?
I don't have to do any auth. It just because I think the iLok service like runs in the background. What it does when it wants to talk to the cloud is it like pops up this little sort of banner, that says, "Hey, I'm trying to talk to the mothership." And during that like couple seconds when you start up the project or the song, you can't use it because it's trying to authenticate itself.
And that's my concern is, can I use this when I'm on a cruise ship where there's no internet? So
I don't believe so.
Because some things you can authenticate, and then as long as you let it authenticate within the next month, you're okay. But sometimes you have to do it every time.
Yeah, in this case,
then that's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, that was just a Strymon one, but it's like, yeah, because all my other iLok stuff I've got authenticated on the laptop itself or on the Mac Mini. So that you could just go around with. It's fine.
So here's a reverb. Since we're talking about reverb a little bit, this one is probably if I wanted to get like a fancy pants reverb, which I don't really want to do, but I would probably get that one. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that one.
I think I've heard of the CXM.
It's very it's not inexpensive.
No, it's not.
This is not an inexpensive reverb, but it is not as expensive as some of the other stuff that was referenced, and the quality of this thing is pretty bonkers.
Yeah, it looks like you can beat the shit out of somebody with this thing too.
Yeah, it weighs like 100 pounds.
Yeah, it looks like it.
About 800.
Wow, $900. Choo.
Yeah, you got to really want reverb.
Yes, that's like.
Like, you got to really want a lot of reverb, a lot.
Yeah.
It's a really cool pedal, and the faders are motorized.
Ooh.
Nice. I think like the main problem that I've discovered is my own laziness, because I mean back in the day I did have external effects units and you did everything through AugSense because that's how you had to do it, because you had a mixer and that was just life. And I think putting stuff right on the channels, especially with reverb, is just not always a good idea. I feel like the granular control I want definitely should put on
bus it or something like that.
An AugSense. So, yeah.
Yep. And now that, I mean, to your point with what you said about like desktop interfaces, like it's really, a lot of them don't have sends that, I mean, some of them do and some of them don't. Depends on what your other front end stuff is, but like it's becoming harder and harder with a lot of interfaces to get like a whole bunch of 1/4-inch jacks on them.
Right.
Yeah. I think this PreSonus Quantum might have one return and one send. Which is good, but it, you know, if I was going to judge it by mixing board standards from the 90s, not good, because I think at 3 AUX.
I think the assumption is nowadays you're going to be using most of your effects in the box anyway. Yeah,
I get it. I know.
Relative to the $99 Mackie from 1997, it is woefully inadequate.
Correct.
And like another issue for this is like, you know, they should have a case for rack mount, because you can't rack mount this thing, and a lot of people don't have desktop space.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah, I noticed.
Which thing?
Yeah, I've got a Prophet 12 sitting there. I got some action figures, important stuff.
Understandable. Well then, since you don't have any desktop space, you should maybe look into getting some iOS software.
Yeah, you could granulate from your phone.
You could, in fact, join the likes of Heinbach. And yeah, get the Fluss, a new hands-on granular performance synthesizer. So yeah, this has been released just recently. The Fluss, German for flow. Mm-hmm. This thing sounds weird.
You don't.
As you'd want. Yeah.
It's kind of cool, but I mean, it's a granular synthesizer. It's got, I think the big difference is it's just got a more unique interface. A lot of XY pads and stuff like that. It's definitely iOS-y, iPad-y. Definitely designed for the touch models and stuff like that. It's $14. It's got full AUV3 support, so you can connect it to all the rest of your garbage inside of your iPhone or iPad that accepts that kind of thing.
How quickly can you use it to turn a usable sound into absolute bullshit mud?
I'm going to go ahead and say, hold my beer. I would give it about like 3 to 5 seconds with my inexperienced hands.
Excellent. Then it's a top-notch granular sampler.
Yes, granular synths, granular synths are great. You can do really cool things with it. I feel that granular synths is one of those types of synthesis that you need a plan going in.
Yes.
Like modular.
No, I mean, well, modular, you need
not
a plan going in, but you'll never follow that plan no matter what. If you have modular, it doesn't matter. You're just.
But I'm just saying, if you want to avoid coming up with the most expensive fart sound, you
Yeah,
really
but
have to have a plan.
even then, it will.
Because eventually, it's like you stop and it's like, all right.
Yeah, the
this is just
blinkies
a
will
fart.
distract you until it's just a fart sound, and that kind of
Yep.
thing.
Like, let me do this. Like, stop.
Don't.
You should
Yeah.
have stopped a while ago. You took it too
Just
far.
don't.
Now it's a fart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this like granular isn't as distracting. It's just like it's more along the lines of just like it's so easy just to go into just like cacophonous stupid noise, and it's
Yeah.
is what it is.
Here's a great exploration tool.
Here's my experience with it. I use it in the Iridium, and here's where I use it in the Iridium is when I'm trying to get the super thick D50 style, like a bunch of layer sounds. You make it part of a layer
Sure.
rather than the sound itself. To me, that's where it sings. That's just my humble opinion,
Yeah.
the way I use it. But
I used it a lot on your remix I did for you, Justin. Yeah, I used it actually to
nice.
retune some of the samples you gave me.
yeah, that was the biggest stem output I've ever done. I was like, here's a track with no effects. Here's a track with a few flowers sprinkled on it. Here's the same track with the color blue
And I
and the letter
appreciate that
A next
because
to
it
it.
allowed me to take that color blue and the letter A next to it and make it the color A with the letter blue next to it. Yes.
Excellent.
So voila.
So the thing that I found the most interesting about the Fluss was that the filter was inspired by the
Yes.
Oberheim expander.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So that makes me wish I had an iPad. Outside of that, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Synth nerds really love
Mhm.
those expanders. I've never actually
Me
played
either.
with one in real life. But if you start peeling back the layers, a lot of these guys like Glenn Darcy, and they're like,
Mhm.
it's like their favorite synth. It's crazy.
So I haven't played with the expander, but they do have a Matrix 12 at the Vintage Synthesizer Museum.
Oh, cool. Did you get to tinker with it, Christoph?
I didn't, but I could have. I just ran out of time.
Sure. I've seen videos of that place. It looks like there's a lot of shit to go through.
There's a lot. So, and I let the Oberheim 4 voice consume a lot of my time, and I should have played more with the CS80, but I should have come into the CS80 with more of a plan, because it's weird to use, but still I could say I've played one and used it.
Right.
But the that Blade Runner isn't a preset, and it takes a while to dial that in if you're not familiar with that interface, because it doesn't act like
Right.
a Prophet 5. Anything with a Prophet 5 interface, I can dial up the
Right.
sound really quick, because everything after the Prophet 5 is kind of based on that model. And the CS80 predates it, so it's a little weird.
I love that little miniature thing they have with the,
No.
for creating the patches.
Yeah, it's like, all right, if you want to create 2 customs, dial them up here.
Yeah.
That's your backup.
I feel like I'm playing Parcheesi trying to write a patch.
And that was the brilliance of Dave Smith, is that he was the only one in that field that was like, well, I know how to program
Yeah.
microcontrollers.
Right.
And it gave him such a leg up
Yeah,
for
it absolutely
invention.
Yeah. May you rest in peace, Dave.
So they were
Thanks,
giving it
man.
away for free, but that ended on December 12th, so you can't win it now. Fuck you. But you can buy it for $14. So throw down $14, cheapskate, unless you don't have an iPad, in which case throw down a bunch of money for an iPad, then throw down $14 for this cheapskate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Oh.
Christoph, but looks cool. The interface looks lovely.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
I probably won't get it because I don't like making music on iPads.
Yeah.
Like, totally relate to that.
And it doesn't look as good as like 70s computer does.
No, it does not. It does not look as good as like an Altair sitting there staring at you with love or hate.
Well, yeah, the difference for me for the iPads is I really like using a tablet thing. It's available on iPad and Android, but it's a complete
Right.
environment. Whereas just using a single synth, how am I going to get this to integrate? And so that makes me
Well,
like a little gun shy about using like a dedicated
that one is
app
AUV3,
on
so it
on a
does
tablet.
interface with the other stuff. It's
Has what?
AUV3, which means it will interface with the other stuff. Like it'll interface with your iPad-based DAW and stuff along those lines. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you have an iPad-based DAW that supports
Which all of them
UV3.
do.
Caustic
Well, I don't
does?
know about Caustic. I don't use it, but I know that most of the other ones do.
Yeah, so Caustic probably doesn't, and that would be the one that I'd be
well.
using.
Well, then it's all your fault, Christoph. Yeah.
It is.
It's
As
true.
is everything. My mom told me.
You know how this works. Anyway, we're talking about crazy looking
Competence.
things.
So our crazy-looking synthesizer winner
Yes,
of the week
thank
is
In fact, the CompuSynth, combining West Coast synthesis with 70s computing. So this is a fun, goofy little thing. This guy, Grigori San Cristoforo, I totally destroyed his name, came out with a number of other synths as well back in the day. He did what was the other things he did? He did it's one with the Japanese name, the Uami, I think is what it was called.
Is it Umami?
It's I'm looking for it right now. The Ongaku, that's what it was. This weird like organic synth is what he called it. We talked about it briefly in a couple shows ago. And like Bento, he did that one as well, which is just like these really weird synth boxes that he was coming up with that are obviously VST, AU, plug-in stuff. And now he has a CompuSynth 400, which is just kind of like this weird pseudo Buchla shoved into a design that looks like a Altair synth.
Like half Altair,
Yeah,
half
exactly.
IBM.
So Justin, did you get it yet?
And then with the colors
Yeah.
of a Buchla.
I didn't, but I did look at it, and it's funny because the UI looks like mildly like VB4 sort of clunky, like just the actual visual output of it, the UI. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, why not? It sounds cool. I was listening to the demos of it, and I was like, if you know, I'm just not a West Coast person. I think that's the only thing I'd be down on. But you know, obviously, I was a little too young for the actual Altair. So, but like programming an entire computer with little dip switches is just maybe a little bit much for me. But
I understand.
But
Like if this was a physical synth, it'd be a great showpiece or conversation starter.
Yeah.
yeah,
And did anybody get the Whopper
Yeah.
reference?
Oh yeah.
yeah. If they had used the IMSI 8080, which was the War Games sort of the competitor to the Altair, I'd be really impressed. But yeah, that is a good reference. It is like, yeah, vintage computing is fun. I bet this thing would be fun to play with. I think it operates in this tiny little Venn diagram niche of people. And you'd think I would be in there, but it's like I almost don't mix those worlds. Like my vintage computing and gaming almost never influences my music.
That's
and
strange.
That's understandable.
Well, I think it's just because fiddling with old computers is not easy or fun. I mean, it's fun, but it's not easy, I should say. Whereas, like, I like to be able to focus on music and not be
And not
pounding.
a frustrating interface.
Yeah, right.
And I totally get that.
I mean, I miss my Ataris, but I'm not going to try to use them.
Yeah,
as
no, I can get
sequencers
that.
anymore.
Yeah, like,
Interfacing just sucks.
my first sequencer was the Roland R8. And the moment I got Cakewalk, I was like, I'm never going back to hardware sequencing.
Yeah. No, so this guy's brilliant. It looks fun. If you're into this thing, you should pick it up.
It's like $15. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's coming out with the
so
Windows
if you're a
version
Windows
soon.
user,
I think. Is it
it'll
this one?
come out, he says, in January.
Plan for next month.
So hold with bated breath or braided Beth, whatever. I'm not going to judge you.
I'm waiting for Braided Beth.
You could bait
braid
Beth or
You can
braid
do whatever
Beth
you're
or
into.
whatever.
I'm not going to yuck your yum. Caustic does not support AUV3, but it does support Audio Bus, Christoph, so you can still run it in most DAWs. Yes.
Fantastic.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
finding it. Now all I need
Yep.
is an iPad.
You can just sell your Neutron, get an iPad.
This I
I don't need 2 kidneys.
reminds me of I don't know if anybody played Commander Keen back in the DOS days.
Yeah.
Computing. This thing looks something like straight out of Commander Keen and the Vorticons or something.
Mm-hmm.
Very ridiculous.
That's a good point. You're right. It looks like some kind of 16-bit rendering of an
Yeah.
interface. You're
Like
so
space.
I have a coffee table book of just like photographs of vintage computers, but it's like some guy that just like found collectors that kept everything in mint condition, and these are just like these very almost like sexy ass images, very well lit, very beautiful pictures of really old vintage computers, and just going through that and like looking at the style. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I feel that like the people that were building these things weren't designers. But in
Are you sure?
well, I don't know, because it's like
Well,
it's
it
like
depends.
yeah,
There's
it-
industrial designers.
I
I
sometimes there is, or there's an element to it, especially with the
Right,
IBM
but-
series. Like there was a design language and code book that they had where it had to
Yeah.
fit these parameters.
Oh, yeah. but
You know, because they had a corporate structure to maintain. It's like this is how our stuff looks, and you're going to use these pinstripes and these colors.
but like some of this other stuff
And
that was
that's
like
through all the IBM.
these companies that were really small and stuff like that. There was like a, you know, I don't know if there was an industrial designer involved in it or not, but the lack of industrial design kind of became its own.
Aim the design.
Yeah, it became the design.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
I blame PCs for this because I think the 8-bit and 16-bit
Yeah.
computers looked cooler.
Yeah.
I do. And then I feel like the beige box sort of took over the world. And
Well, and that's Japan's fault. The
Oh,
beige
really?
is because for like there, like the beige is cool the way black is cool here. So that was like their like color of mourning color, and so that's what was cool. And so that was they tested the marketing, and it was like if it's beige, it'll sell well in Japan.
interesting.
That's why that kind of became the de facto standard of ugly computers until the iMac came out. But
I was
anyway,
gonna
I'm thinking
say-
of like that classic design. So there's a museum in Seattle. I can't remember the name of it is. I want to say it's like the Vintage Computer Museum or Classic Computer Museum, and it had a big funder. So it has a lot of the old IBMs and a lot of the old classics. I'm trying to remember the names, like the PDP series.
Oh yeah, PDP-11. and-
Yeah, like I got to, so I got to see the original Star Trek game on the PDP before it was ported over to like the 8-bit home computers of the 80s. I think they had Dungeon, which is what Zork was based on.
Yep.
And then they had stuff that I've actually used, and like I feel like, oh my god, I'm so old because they had the Commodore 64 and the Apple II. So, but they had like the 50s and 60s stuff too. They had the actual like card stop machine, the machines that run on the paper, the punch cards. Yeah, and a lot of it is still running.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, so this definitely has that kind of design aesthetic. You know which machine? The old computers had brilliant design were the Cray XM.
I always thought I like the
Yeah.
Cray supercomputers that looked like a couch, like the weird future couches.
Okay. They had some also that were like these like kind of circular, but with like the rectangles coming out.
Yeah, those ones all kind of look like futuristic
and
couches.
there was a function for that. It was for keeping like the different lines a certain length. Because so much of it is being able to get everything to communicate with each other quickly. So yeah.
I forgot about these. I'd seen them, but I didn't know that they were the Cray XMP. Wow, these look like 2001 amazing.
Yep. They were built on those in the early 80s.
These are the ones that look like couches.
Man. Yeah, they totally do. You're right, Andrew. They look like mid-century.
Yeah, like I want to sit.
avant-garde
I want
furniture.
one of these as furniture in my house.
Let's do
Yeah,
it, man.
totally.
Let's make one.
Like 1985. Yeah.
Speaking of people who are barely qualified to make stuff, let's talk about the Pro 800.
Hey!
Oh, I'm sorry. Dope.
Zing.
So you got to wonder you're getting your first polysynth out. Why the
Right.
Pro 800? You know,
They've had this that works.
sequential's a
Sure.
good choice, but
Yeah,
this
right.
sequential
And why would you keep the fucking blister membrane
membrane
keys?
interface. Like of all the things not to emulate,
Yeah.
membrane keys is it. Like I know buttons are going to cost a little bit more.
Yeah.
Put buttons in.
I mean, it sounds good, but you're right. Why this one? They're doing a Jupiter clone.
Mhm.
Why not focus on that one?
yeah, or a and
Yeah,
I mean, remember, I love the Prophet 5 and the Pro 1 series. Give us a polyphonic version of those, and this is the Poly 600 was weaker than those, so you've emulated the wrong one. And I'm sure the only reason why this one is coming to market first is because they got the chips needed to make this one, get this one out first. I absolutely believe that the one they wanted to get out first was the UBX, and that they just, or the Jupiter would be a great market killer and a thunderous entrance. And I'm sure the only reason why this one's getting out first is like they could get the parts to get this one out. Maybe because there's no demand for membrane keys,
right? Or seven segment LED displays.
Oh man, I do love a 7-segment display. So,
yeah, me too. I
do think membrane keys are.
Yeah, I think those are useless.
They break.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the panels do.
So that said, even though this is not the best synth to emulate, the Poly 600 does still sound good.
Yeah.
And I saw the demo on this, and I love the filters on it.
Yeah.
One of the sounds I got out of it's like, I want to buy this. Because it has like a filter on it. Like they're doing something that sounds a little bit like the Oberheim SEM filter on it, where it sounds like it's a cross of high pass, low pass with resonance, and it sounds so good. Like, all right. So, and for the price,
$600,
$600 for an 8-voice polysynth, and the real analog, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not the best one to emulate, but will it sell?
Yeah,
absolutely. And
it's weird. I actually own the Prophet 600, and I installed the Gleegly mod. And the thing is that they brought in the Gleegly guy so the Gleegly was like an overlay because they used this Z80 processor, that really wasn't powerful enough to deal with the digital envelopes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people hated it because of that. It was future thinking for Dave Smith because he's like, well, why couldn't you do the envelopes digitally? Well, obviously everybody does that now, but they have processors that can keep up with like audio rate speed.
Yeah.
So the Gleegly really helps. It's just like a little Arduino board, basically, that takes it over. But what's really funny is there's like breakouts on the patch bay to get to the Gleegly secondary functions, and none of it is very elegant or fun. And I think it's kind of interesting, and like I'm not sure if they're just trying to be super elite here or what, but they're like, we bring in the Gleegly guy so you can do the same painful Gleegly modification interface to the original. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess it works if you had a real, Prophet 600 where like, screw this thing, it breaks all the time. I'm just going to get a new one and I'll be comfortable with it.
What's interesting to me is that they have put this thing into their usual their skiff for like Eurorack and stuff like that. So looks like it's like the same size as like your Neutron there, Christoph. And
it is.
There is only 2 patch bay points on there for Eurorack, and that is a sync in and a filter CV in. That's it. So there's no type of CV outs or anything along those lines on this thing. And there's a MIDI in, and there's probably a USB in on the connector on the back, but that's it as far as your MIDI is concerned. It's just a MIDI input. So there's no, very limited communication probably with your DAW and stuff like that, unless you're using USB, which I really don't like using USB myself.
Well, I do think though that they've made everything CC on it.
Yeah, only through USB.
So unlike their other units that are this size, every module sends and receives CC.
Only through USB.
So that's a benefit.
Only through USB.
Say it again? Oh,
there's only MIDI
regular
input on
MIDI?
there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then through USB, it does full CCs on all the controls. But I do know the thing is like people dislike this form factor, especially for a knobby synth, and Everybody
Sure.
would like it bigger. And the simple answer for why are they keep releasing things in this form factor?
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
cost.
Oh, absolutely.
By releasing this, that's how they're keeping their price
Yeah.
points down. So if something sells like gangbusters and they think there's a market demand for a larger one, they're not going to leave
Right.
money on the table. But that's the same reason why they're not releasing rack mount gear, like regular rack mount gear, is because their marketing and their sales show that, if they sell it in a keyboard version, they'll sell twice
Right.
as many units. And that's why they don't release rack mount unless they can show real demand for it. And yet for Eurorack, there is demand. And so this format sells, and that's why they keep releasing this format, and it keeps their
Oh, yeah.
costs down.
Yeah,
a
your
lot.
rec is a very inexpensive format to work in. So that's why it's so universally accepted.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if there is a demand for making the Model D and the Pro 1 larger, but it costs more, and they just figured out their marketing figured out like it'll sell better at this price point, and people even though they'll complain about it, they're more likely to buy the cheaper one that's smaller and less convenient than the bigger one, which will have less of a
absolutely.
target audience. So that is the reason.
Yeah, 19-inch racks are just like, I mean, if you were born after 1990, I just don't think you're going to use a 19-inch.
And that's exactly it. And despite the fact that I was clearly born in 91, since I'm only 21,
21. Oh, so wait a second.
29,
That's
only
hard.
29. So, but yeah, no, the truth is, yeah, I have 4 racks actually I have 6 racks of gear. So I love rack mount, and you can buy rack ears for all of these too.
Sure.
But it's not an ideal way to interface with these, especially with there being so much on the front panel or if you because of the way these are set up, they don't have a rack extender, so you're going to lose another rack space for getting things into the back.
Do they have a MIDI in the back? I see the MIDI in is on the front of this thing.
Some of them do, some of them don't. Like this one has MIDI in, like Neutron has MIDI in on the front, and the Model D has it on the top as well. I don't have it for the back.
They just have USB on the back.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, that is coming out supposedly in April. We'll find out in April if it's still coming out.
But yeah, they've been gun shy about giving
this
release
is the first
dates.
time they've done
so
one.
I think if they're saying it, then they know that it's actually. I believe that they're in production, and that's their supply chain for when it gets from factory to stores.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
But I'll tell you what's available now.
Is it something that was in hardware and now is in VST?
You got it. What could it be?
Is it something from Core?
Maybe. Could it be the Mod Wave?
I think it's the Model.
Spoiler alert, it's the Mod
It
Wave.
is. I think it's the Mod Wave
I
too.
think it is too. Whoa, it is. Look at that. Yep. Korg has released the Mod Wave native. So they were releasing this stuff if you already owned the product. Now they're releasing this separately. Whether it's because no one's
Do you know what they've realized?
buying it or what? That they weren't selling Mod Waves?
That as soon as somebody touches a Mod Wave, or what's the other one called, a wave waiver,
Wave
Wave
State.
State.
wave state, or
Wave State,
wave
yeah.
state, wave station, who knows, whatever, make the dumbest names, or the OP6, they say, wow, this is a paper bag that makes sounds. It feels like a paper bag. Doesn't feel like a synthesizer.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that this soft synth is built better than the hardware.
They're like, well, if you can't touch it, you can't think it feels like a paper bag.
Yep. Can't complain about how cheap it's built if it doesn't exist in real space.
I mean, look, I didn't actually like my mini log all that much. I liked my pro log plenty, and I replaced it not out of any sort of hatred, but just desire to sort of fill that space with something more powerful.
Sure.
And more powerful and similar. But the prologue feels really good.
Yeah.
The mini log and the monologue feel really good.
Yeah, for what for mini keys, the things felt really strong. They felt like you could probably do +4 damage to people with that thing.
Yeah. bass too. I mean, like all of the components of the synthesizers felt good.
Right. But
Staying
the
do
Op6, the Mod Wave, and the Wave ED Wave, I even had one. I can't remember what it's called. They felt like garbage. They felt like they were going to give you like a -6 penalty when you try to roll for damage.
I mean, it's pretty bad. It actually is just pretty bad.
The key bed was terrible. There was no aftertouch. There was like, amazing. Like I was surprised there was even velocity sensitivity on the key bed. It felt terrible. The interface was just like cluttered. 37
keys. Sorry, anybody who disagrees, you're wrong. But 37 keys is the worst conceivable keyboard size. It's hard enough to trick you every single time and think play something on it. You can't. You can't. Sorry, it's a lie.
Well, I think they work for some monosynths.
But these weren't monosynths.
Yeah. Well, no, I understand. I'm saying 37 keys is acceptable for like a monosynth, but
like how many did the Wasp EDP have?
The what?
How many the EDP Wasp? How many keys did it have? Probably just 24, right?
Original. Yeah, I'd be surprised if it
because
had
like the
two
base station and the
functioning
case
ones,
station
but
are based off that same size.
But that's okay. Actually, like a 25 key is fine.
Right.
But it doesn't trick you into thinking you should play it with two hands.
Right.
Yeah, right. And the EDP Wasp I just checked, it was 25 keys.
That's a weird number.
But 37 goes, put both hands on me. Just put them right there on both of them.
Yeah.
You can no, you can't. Ha!
Welcome to your almost 3 octaves. Almost.
Yeah, because remember, Andrew, I ended up with your wave state, and then I turned around and sold it for the same reason. Yeah, literally, it's like, oh, this looks cool. This is like almost like prologue, sort of Darth Vader vibes. And then you're like, try to fucking do anything on it.
Yeah, outside
like,
of playing the presets, like, it's like the dumbest
just
interface in the world.
Yeah, it's totally that. But see, the thing is like, why don't you bring back the wave station? Because that was kludgy in the first place. It's like, it's totally something you could do in software so much better, and they actually
and
do
that's
it
just it.
so
So
much
now
better
the
in software.
synthesizer and the motion sequencing and all that other bullshit in the wave in the Mod Wave, they have a very nice looking interface. You've got your little chaos physics bullshit going on in there, and everything is very nicely laid out.
Yeah, it really looks like a dream to use this thing.
It does.
It's very nice looking. It's a powerful synth.
Yeah, the interface makes sense. You've got a bunch of fucking filters in this thing. You've got all kinds of garbage. And, it's cool.
I think it's funny because it's got the, I think, did they add the MS-20 filter to this one? There was some, and it was funny because they did that. We didn't talk about it, but they added an MS-20 filter in the Mini Freak, I think it was. And I'm like, gosh, I'm not a big MS-20 person.
Yeah, people like the MS-20, especially if you're doing like that kind of more like guttery, kind of sounding shit.
Yeah, it's some zeitgeist. You know how that works in this industry. Is like everyone's like, oh, that person's using an MS-20 filter.
We better use an MS-20 filter too. So yeah, $150.
So I'm not sure if I have
$150 for this thing.
So I played with somebody who has a kit, like an MS-20 kit, but it's the reissue. I don't know how authentic that is. But so it's Tony Gustin. He had one. And I played with it, and I got really good sounds out of it. And it's not what I've normally heard an MS-20 sound like. So which makes me think this isn't that authentic. But
is that the Korg one, first off?
The Korg. The reissue. This is like probably 8 years ago.
Was it the desktop one, the desktop kit, or the?
It was a desktop kit, yeah. And it wasn't small. So
he had the Mini.
Oh, it's the Mini? All right.
Well, what was famous for is the Korg reissue didn't have pulse width modulation, but the kit did.
Okay.
Or Nick Bat was all lathering over that at one point.
There's not much of the MS-20 that like really set me on fire, but I don't know. Here's a throwback video for anybody. If you this is probably my favorite MS-20. This is a good video for anybody who, if you've never seen it, is very good. And if you have seen it, you've forgotten about it.
Oh yeah.
You're
You know, I mean, people like Daft Punk
Yeah.
have put it to good use. I can't.
Yeah, they really have. Like when I think of Daft Punk is probably the most famous user
Sure.
of it in my head.
Yeah.
Like, and I know bands that I love, like Skinny Puppy and Frontline, have used it, but I can't pick
Yeah.
out where. Whereas with like the way that Daft Punk used it, it's just
Right.
kind of
Yeah,
like
it stands out, and there's a certain noisiness to it, and maybe
Like, it's
that's
nuts.
the difference between like the reissue and the old one is just like the surface mount and everything like that, and plus all the old ones are probably full of dust, cigarettes, and cum. So I mean that's probably why it sounds so grungy.
Yeah. Also, I think it depends on which version of the MS-20 you get, because they changed the filter that they released depending on what like serial number you have. Because didn't they get sued over the
I think
MS-20's
so.
filter? But I think they were violating a Moog patent, so they had to redo it. And then I think the new one, I think he said it was something like, it's just a single resistor. Or something like, he couldn't believe that people really liked it because it was such a simple design.
Interesting.
Sorry if
I'm
I
really
insulted
still
everybody.
I'm hung on how Andrew listed off a number of things that are filling up these synthesized Christoph's responses. Well, it really varies by model.
I know, right? My first thought is like by like volume of stuff it's filled up in.
Well, listen, guys, it's not the minis just didn't get filled up in the same way because they had these drainage ports. It didn't stuck in there. You got to hear me on that.
Yeah,
You just had to
exactly.
hose
Just
them
drained
down
around the
once in a
back and
while.
just ran a hose across them. It worked for Gary Newman.
Actually, you know who it worked for was Vince Clarke, who infamously put I can't even say it, it makes me cry, a Fairlight CMI in the basement of his house, and it proceeded to flood right over top.
That's like when Gary Newman moved from the UK to the United States and found his mini Moog up in his attic that's been up there since the 70s. Yeah, it's like collecting dust, and you got it cleaned up, and it worked fine.
Well,
Of course.
Leather Strip Studio got destroyed by a flood as well.
Oh, wow.
In the 90s. And then when whatever he got new, people did not like his new material, and I don't know if it was a new workflow or the sound of the synths.
Or the fact that Flood was no longer producing his albums. He was too busy ruining all the synths. Sorry, dumb joke. Flood didn't do any of his stuff. Anyway, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Leather Strip can't afford Flood.
Someone who's
I am
the weather,
on
you're
something,
on fire.
and it's not cold medicine, surprisingly.
Mescaline.
Woo! Woo! So yeah, Korg VST 159. If you want a mod wave, go and get it. Woohoo! If not, then don't get it. Go get something else. Go, go throw your money for a good cause. Like just donate to us. That's cool. We like money.
Thank you.
We'll take it. Just buy all of our albums. In sadder news, Irv Deutsch passed away. Co-inventor of the Moog synthesizer, the man who put the keyboard on the synthesizer and said, "This is a good idea," and both popularized it and damned it for many years to come.
Yeah, we have had many a heated debate about this on this show. But I will say this, I don't think it would have been popularized as much without a keyboard, honestly. Yeah, I heard all the interviews with him. He seems like he was a super stand-up guy. And it's interesting that I could see him and Mo working because, I think that Herb Deutsch kind of had both feet on the ground, whereas I think Bob Moog was, like a lot of sort of genius inventor guys, was maybe kind of floating about a foot off the ground.
Herb Deutsch was the executive producer for, I think, for Bob Moog. So Bob Moog's like, let's do this. And he's like, no, sit down. Get back here. We're putting a keyboard on here. We're not going to use brain waves to make the synthesizer work.
He's like, wait, I could take a bunch of reindeer and hook magnetic units.
We're putting keys on this thing. Shut up, Bob.
No, don't do it.
Tell us more,
Yeah,
Dr.
I'm sorry.
Girlfriend.
Yeah, when in doubt.
Exactly.
Yes, I belong in here. It's got a really deep voice.
Didn't you go?
I went for Halloween one year as
Halloween
Dr.
as
Girlfriend, and the next year I went as Sergeant Hatred, and I can do both their voices very well. Yeah, so Herb Deutsch, multimedia extraordinaire. Yeah, he
was
died at 90, surprisingly playing paintball.
Yeah, right. 90 years old, passed away playing paintball.
Wait, he died playing paintball?
Yeah.
No, I just made that up, but now it's true.
Yes.
Jesus,
Because
John.
I
Right?
said it on TV.
It's on the internet. It's internet true.
God, apparently I am not
Justin,
fucking
quick, go
gullible.
update
I
the
was just
Wikipedia
like,
page.
wait.
It's my fault because I have a really flat delivery and really dry delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that's how my sense of humor works. So I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
It was awesome. I really enjoy being tricked and befuddled. I appreciate
He
it.
loves being made a fool out of.
No, it's awesome. That was great.
So, so Howard Deutsch is not coming back. But what is returning?
I'm so
from the
glad you
dead?
asked.
The Future Retro
That's right. The
777.
Future Retro 777 will be coming back from the dead. We thought it was gone, but it's coming back in 2023. Apparently, someone gave him some money. They're not talking about how it was and whys and stuff like that, but I'm guessing someone decided to give him some cash and stuff like that. I don't know much about the Future Retro 777 other than it looks like fun. Yes,
I love the buttons.
They're like that profit button, clickety clickety.
Yeah, I love that clicky tactile.
It's
button.
under new management.
New management. So hopefully,
somebody bought this company and they're going to
Yep.
put out the products.
hopefully they're better at what they're doing.
It's got knobs. It's got
Clickety
those cool
clickety clickety.
buttons.
Monophonic analog synthesizer, heavily inspired by your Christoph's favorite, the TB303. Yep.
Oh, that makes sense.
For people who like this thing, I hope they like it.
Yes.
I think it sounds terrible.
Of course it does, because it sounds like a
Very
303.
bad. Don't like it.
Yeah, I went to watch the Perfect Circuit audio
Uh-huh.
demo here, and I knew that it was an old ass video because it was the old Perfect Circuits track, which is actually what's that guy's name? DJ Ozone or something.
Yeah.
He's a German electro funk guy.
Yeah, it does not sound.
Oh, Funkmaster Ozone, that's his name.
Sounds great to me. It sounds 303, but somehow worse.
What was that recent Chinese company that made like a weird clone
Honor.
of the?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That made like the 303 clone for like $50 or
just
something like that.
yeah. I just wonder, is there a market for something like this? I mean,
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
there's a market for something like this. And the reason I say that is, look, management can be real shit.
Right.
And you can ruin a perfectly good company with bad management. That is absolutely a possible thing to do. But a synthesizer company is like a real small company, and if people like, I don't know, this with 50 employees or something like, which is still a small company, like, but it's not a company that's got like dozens of employees. They're doing contract manufacturing. I guess they could just be not charging enough or buying too many or whatever. Like, there's things that could go wrong here, but like, really, how do you fail to succeed as a company of this size? Is that people don't buy your stuff.
Right.
Like that really is it. It's not like you failed to manage your 75-person team effectively and they just didn't do any work. Nope, you made a synthesizer that people didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only difference I can see is that your inventory.
Yeah, your
system.
inventory could be bad, but this is
Yeah, so if you switch over to a JIT,
Yeah.
so that you're not stuck with a lot of supplies but no orders, then that could keep you above. But it's just not going to make any money. My guess is somebody wanted to buy their way into the synth game, and like somebody maybe inherited some money. It's like, I'm going to be behind a company, because there are people that really love this synth, because they're drugs, I guess.
The drugs tell them to love it.
And so now somebody's bought their way in, and they could say, look, I'm behind that synth. Remember it was in that song from the 90s? when we were tripping balls and all that.
Now I've got the ball tripping synth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people,
And there's still a market for 303s. How many clones came in the last 2 years, and all sold? And so there is a market for this thing, but I obviously hate it. But someone else loves it. And but I could see how you're just losing a ton of money making these things if you have to buy your components in bulk and then you can't move the synths. So if you've got a new hookup for getting those parts, that's different.
So here's to give you an idea. The Future Retro 777 synthesizer on Reverb right now is starting at $2,700.
So clearly demand for this.
Well,
terrible,
I mean,
terrible
$2,700. That could be that demand exceeds supply, or they haven't reached equilibrium. But it doesn't actually mean there's that much demand. It just could also mean there's not a lot of supply.
Right.
No low supply, which
but
is
there's. I mean, look, this is a 303 with bizarre filters, and also they're like, hey, you know what a 303 needs? It needs clankless, weird FM. So let's have that.
Right.
It's novel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack says that, see it this way, most folks say you really need 3 303s, one for bass, one for lead, and one ready to go for the next bass. And all right, if you're
well, I could see that because there's no patch recall on the 303. So I get that.
Yeah. So that's I'm glad that that someone's coming back around, invested some money, new management. Maybe the old manager guy was just tired of making them.
Yeah.
And just said, fuck you all. So, I don't know. But in back to dead things dying news, Mutable has finally closed up shop.
This is very sad, although we all
they've
saw
announced
it,
and their website now just says that every production is halted. Everything's shut down. Support and repairs are available until June.
So, Christoph, is that cat's name Nazgul? I just want to.
It is.
That is
makes
the fucking
complete sense,
name
especially
ever.
for the kind of.
It is.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So Emily Glett is retiring from the area of music technology.
Didn't they?
Oh my goodness.
Didn't they just re-release this thing right before they? Am I mixing this up?
They
with
they did some software updates and stuff like that.
Yeah, they put like FM
and then
shit in there. Or something?
Their stuff is in VCV Rack, and the Micro Freak and the Mini Freak has a lot of the DNA of some of her stuff.
So it's like a party gift from her to do the software.
Well, the thing is that she open sourced all this stuff too. So all of this stuff, a lot of it is embedded into a lot of things out there to this day. And it will continue to, really, because she did some amazing designs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So she's going to have a legacy of influence, and that's why this is so sad. But hopefully, this is her way of moving on to something bigger and hopefully better that the world will appreciate. Like, it could be that she just got a great job and she doesn't have time for this, but hopefully it's that she's going to be doing something that everybody will all know about and
she got a lot of shit. She got a lot of shit in her time and stuff like that. And that's from a lot of terrible people, calling her names and stuff like that, and just being cruel because of who she is, and that's a bunch of bullshit. And part of me wonders if it's just the toxicity of those people that just made her quit. I wouldn't blame her.
So,
neither will.
we should have a conversation, I guess, we're on the topic. First of all, my understanding, I'm not a modular person, but this Beads module was super popular, right? Like, it was like almost like a must-have deal. But yeah, that is some total BS. I think that, look, I'm not going to open this can of worms about modular synths or modular culture. Right. But like it sort of overlapped with like the hipster homebrew beer / custom car culture attitude. I mean, look, I'm not trying to diss those groups either, but I just felt like it was real. It could get real toxic real fast.
Well, it's like it becomes like Star Wars fanboys in a way, and I'm going to specifically point that out because Star Wars is known for having a ridiculously toxic fan base.
Yeah.
You put a person of color as one of your main actors, and everyone just loses their shit. And it brings out the worst in people, and it's a similar kind of thing that happened here with Mutable Instruments in the end.
Yeah, Star Trek 2. I think Will Wheaton is still in fucking therapy.
Yeah, well, he's making a bang nowadays, but
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, that if you were BBS person at that time period, like, the amount of hatred going on.
Oh God, yeah. And so I mean, I feel that like that's a that's a thing in this. There's like there's an element in here that was very toxic, and even in like the Eurorack world and stuff like that. Just a music production period. I mean, God, you're a woman in music production. Ben Jordan did a whole story on that, on like how women are treated in this world and stuff like that of music and electronic music especially.
I'm not going to name names, but I know I have definitely seen, at least in my experience, women artists who have been severely harassed by front house jerks.
Oh God, yeah, same.
And it makes you want to fucking puke.
Yeah. Although aren't women treated terribly everywhere all the time?
Yeah.
Not fair enough. It feels like we see them because we're in this field, but I don't think women really get treated well.
That's also a good point.
Yeah.
Which is equally terrible.
So
well, and the contribution that this woman has had is immense, and we're all better for it. And I'm sorry to see this company go because they've done so much inventive things and creative things. But I wish her
future ventures, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Could also just be a case though of maybe like, I don't know, eventually your desire to do the thing or your creative well could run by too. So I mean, could be a lot of things, but hopefully to the point of like maybe moving on to something else exciting, that would be awesome. But also like better to go out on top than to make something shitty.
Absolutely.
Well, plus, what do you think about modular Eurorack in general? I mean, I feel like it's kind of sunsetting.
I doubt it. I think that I think the market's pretty flooded, but we're also seeing the big thing being supply constraints and stuff like that. Supply chain.
Eurorack is going to hang on for a long time because despite ultimately having a very high cost of ownership for a lot of people, Eurorack feels like it's inexpensive.
Yeah.
And it is psychologically, I think it's very easy for people to get that sort of like endorphin hit that they get from going, oh, it's just $100 module. I'm gonna give me a new $100 module. I'd treat yourself. I deserve that $100 module. And then like $9,600 modules later this week, you've definitely spent some money.
Yeah.
But
and your kids aren't going to college anymore.
Individually, none of the things feel, well, not none. Many of the purchases in Eurorack feel very small individually. And so, whereas, like with us looking around, like there's people who have single Eurorack cases that cost 3 times more than everything in my studio. Like, I know some of these people, and I know what's in their case, and I know how much it costs. And so it's very easy to spend inordinate amounts on the Eurorack stuff, but it comes in small chunks.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to stay around because that small chunk buying it's like a subscription model in its own way.
And the amount of Eurorack news that we don't talk about on here, we're and that was by design. We don't, and nothing against Eurorack users. It's just that it's such the news fire hose blasting with Eurorack would make it so we would only have time to talk about Eurorack.
Yeah, nothing.
And we'll be able to cover it in 2 hours.
Well, we talk about it when it's musically relevant or interesting.
Or we accidentally let it slip in, but
once in a while.
Yeah.
Like in this case.
And for Mutable, for example, that it's also in the micro freebie
Yeah.
and not the mini, but also in
Yeah.
BCB.
No,
Rack.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Jack asks.
I don't hate it either. I'm glad we don't focus on it. I mean, I'm going to let my bias show against it. But I mean, look, people can rock out, do what they want, and if I mean, I could see why it would be a fun and addictive hobby.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
People make some. Can't make.
Yeah, but it's an overwhelming amount of news.
Absolutely. Jack asked, do modules break a lot? I mean, I've never had anything break, but I mean, it depends like what you're doing with it and stuff. Generally, they're solid state, so they're not like breaking very often. But plugs wear out and knobs wear out and stuff like that, just like anything else.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that would really play into that with your rack longevity. Is how often are you swapping it out of the case?
Right.
It's certainly so. Like one thing that is absolutely true of your rack component versus like an integrated synthesizer is that if you're swapping stuff out, you are much more likely to cause a static discharge.
Yeah, you'll ASD it to hell and back. Mm-hmm.
It will really matter.
Yeah.
And so where that really will make a difference is whether your module has any chips in it. Because if the module has chips, ESD will destroy it, and it won't be obvious at first.
So that depending on also like what the case and the rails are like, and you get it in there appropriately, and then the variability of power supplies in cases. And it's the same thing like if you've got real dirty power that's real janky in your house, undervoltaging a synthesizer is not a great thing to do to it. And depending on how each of the components and the modules in your setup draw power and how your power system is actually set up, you can have some like pretty spiky weird power because some of those power systems are not like.
Yeah, they're not built very well.
Yep. And another complication, if you have modules that are pure analog pathways, then you have to worry about heat management. Because heat destroys, electronics. The two big killers are heat and static.
So I can see modular being potentially like
lethal.
Less, I don't know, like less longevity to modules than integrated synths. Or also, I can see them being like way longer. Like, I would imagine that there's probably like a high degree of variability in there. And if you build your modular case out of like really high end stuff, like I bet if you build it out of all like, I don't know, Buchla or Doepfer or something that's like really good, just well engineered stuff, and it's consistent set of if it's all Doepfer in an all Doepfer case and all the power management is like done for that, like I don't know, probably lasts forever. That Doepfer stuff is like made out of steel and iron,
right?
Unless we discover another incident like Andrew once brought up about the great capacitor.
Yeah, it's just like I'm going to start melting.
And I've got a number of gear that is affected by that, and now I'm scared to turn it on.
Yep.
Like I have a bunch of Roland gear that definitely has those capacitors in it.
You know what doesn't have those capacitors in it?
The little knobs from Moog.
What?
Oh.
So Moog has decided to sell some knobs. And these knobs are made for your little tiny knobs that are on things like the DFAM and the subharmonicon.
They're knob hats.
They're knob hats. And they come in a lot of 25, and they're $35 each. Now, $1.40 per knob.
That's not crazy.
This right here is $1.40.
Oh, did you buy these?
This is one of these knobs of which we speak of.
You bought them.
Yes, I did. Just for you, showers.
Yeah,
I bought a 25 pack.
knobs on them, Andrew.
So I bought a 25 pack, and I have a DFAM, and I have a subharmonicon. Those have a total of
how many?
I'm doing the math. 31 knobs.
Oh,
Yes. So, guess what? It doesn't. Guess what doesn't have all the covers on, right? So instead of actually selling these in, I don't know, like a DFAM pack or a Subharmonicon pack, they sell them only in packs of 25 for $35, $1.40 per of these little teeny tiny plastic knobs that are going out of focus because I have the autofocus locked. It does have the silver cap on it, like Moog knobs do. Ooh la la.
Yeah, I love Moog, but let's face it, their supply chain experts are run by the art department, and that's just the way it's always going to be.
And I bought them, and I thought it would be hilarious. I mean, it was $35 well spent for me because it's fucking funny, right? So I have a couple extra of these that I'm willing to sell for $1.40 each.
You sell them over on
I know,
Depop.
right?
Go over the Mercari and buy them.
Yeah, totally.
But you better sell them before Behringer announces the same.
I know,
ones
right?
For
To be
10
like,
cents a pop.
for $1.20.
And they're going to sell a DFAM kit. And
Well, that's just it.
Oh
Like,
my
there's
gosh,
other
that's-
companies out there, like DJ Tech Tools will sell knobs for specific things, and they'll sell just the right amount of knobs you need. You know, and stuff like that.
the number of Moog synths that have 25 little baby tiny knobs on them is none.
Yes, absolutely, exactly.
None.
None.
There's no Moog synth that has 25 knobs.
And
on
there's also no combination of Moog synths that will give you 25 knobs.
That is also correct. Or there is actually correct to say there are no two Moog synthesizers with these style of knobs that contain fewer than 25 knobs.
Right. Yes. Correct.
This is the perfect shitstorm of literally you will never use all of them in any configuration.
No, wait, no. If you had two subharmonicons, that will work because those have 12 mini knobs on it. So you can get
That's
two
not
stars.
25 knobs, Andrew.
But that's 24, and you get a spare to play with to put on your nipple to make yourself feel like a real knob.
You put it on your knob.
Yep.
I feel like we're having that joke about the mathematician, the lawyer, and the accountant.
If a subharmonicon is traveling at 150 miles per hour from Asheville, North Carolina, how many knobs will it take to get the son of a Reese's Pop?
I don't know.
So
But
yeah.
I did hear a joke today. It's not related to knobs. Do you want to hear a good joke?
Yes.
only if Justin will tell his joke.
Oh no!
Two robbers, two burglars were robbing a liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're going through, one of them holds up a bottle and says, "Is this whiskey?" And the other one looks at him, kind of shrugs a little bit and goes, "Yeah, but not as whiskey as robbing this store."
Oh wow!
Wow, you're a dad.
That was like that hit me hard. On the back, man. I didn't see that coming.
That was a waste of time.
Yeah.
No, that was great. No, you know what? If jokes aren't suitably like mentally violent, then they're not worth saying. So thanks to.
Well, I got a joke for you.
It was fun.
Ready?
Uh-oh.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Angela Badalamenti.
Angela Badalamenti.
Angela Badalamenti, who passed away the other day.
Oh no, this is
That is
terrible.
very
Yes,
sad.
it is. Jokes aren't supposed to be funny. They're supposed to be sad.
This dude is older than my dad. I didn't realize he was this
85
old.
years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and
Yeah.
Deutsch had like really long lives.
Yes. Long, full lives. Angelo Badalamenti, composer of Of course, the most famous thing ever.
National Lampoon's
I was going to
Christmas.
say Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And also like, some David Lynch shit. Did not compose the soundtrack to
I
Dune
would put.
or Eraserhead.
Yeah, he didn't do
No, he did not.
Dune, right?
That was Toto
No, it was Toto.
and Brian Eno.
No,
Yeah, Eno did like one track.
that's one of my favorite
Yes.
soundtracks.
Yeah,
Um,
I look.
But yeah, I think of the Lynch Badalamenti pairing up there with Bernard Herrmann
Hitchcock?
and
Mhm.
Alfred Hitchcock,
For
and
sure.
John Carpenter and
Or even just John
Howard.
Carpenter and John
Yep.
Carpenter.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. I would say, yeah. It's a Danny Elfman thing too, right? Like,
yeah, Tim Burton
Yeah,
and Danny
although I
Elfman.
still
Yeah.
think Tim Burton's best movie didn't have Danny Elfman doing the soundtrack in it, but that's just me.
yeah. In my opinion,
Which one is Tim
Ed
Burton's
Wood.
best movie?
Ed Wood. In my
Ed Wood.
opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah. See, we agree on that.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to agree there too. I think it's
Yeah.
definitely Ed Wood.
So yeah, Angelo Badalamenti did some fantastic soundtrack work. If you're a Twin Peaks fan and stuff
I
like
love
that,
his soundtracks.
I kind of like the Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me movie a bit more because he started getting really fucking weird, like doing like the
Hang around
Yeah.
with David Lynch
Yeah,
long enough,
and
it starts to rub off.
I still play tracks from that when I
Mhm.
stream sometimes. Especially when I do guest streams, I'll play the
Yeah,
Black Dog
yeah,
Runs
Black
at
Dog
Night.
Runs at Night or
Nice.
Real Indication. Those kinds of things are just like bizarre. He also did a lot of orchestration. He did orchestration for actually for Pet Shop Boys for their song "It
Oh,
Couldn't
wow.
Happen
Weird.
Here," but they couldn't get an orchestra in time, and so they just did the whole thing on a Fairlight. But yeah, he had done in the on the album. Actually, I saw his name show up in the credits. I'm like, really? And yeah, it was for "It Couldn't Happen Here." So they never used the orchestration, but he did do the orchestration. They gave him credit for it. So he's just a well-known, composer and orchestrator, and
He was a
Absolutely.
brilliant composer. So I hate jazz, but I can't say I hate all jazz, and it's Angelo
Yeah.
Badalamenti's fault.
Yeah.
Because you can't. I mean, I really don't think you get away with saying that the Twin Peaks soundtrack isn't
Mhm.
very jazz.
Yeah. I mean, the use of
And I love it, and it's like, oh, now I can't say
You
that.
just
God
need
damn.
to try
I think he
jazz
used like
stuff. You just
What'd
need
you
to
say?
try more jazz.
Yeah, people say that I haven't given jazz a chance, but I haven't given suicide a chance
fair.
when faced with jazz.
I think it was his instrumentation. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, so he's using marimbas and like vibraphone sounding things, which are very
Yeah.
jazz, or xylophones too. But to me, like, yeah, he made it more accessible than jazz,
He
especially
did.
like,
Well,
classic
what he did was
jazz.
transcended genre.
yeah, sure,
And that's what we're all looking
Mhm.
for anything. It's like, like people that don't like industrial, like Nitzareb, because Nitzareb
Right.
transcends genre. And that's exactly what he did. And the secret to transcending genre is to make people feel
Mhm.
something strongly.
right,
Yeah.
And
Oh
he
yeah.
does. And that's
Yeah.
his real strength, is that he writes really
Mhm.
emotional music. And so it's just fantastic. And it's emotional music that stands out. Like the soundtrack to Inland Empire isn't
No.
Badalamenti, but it kind of sounds like him. And that's the thing. is
Right.
that he has a
No,
sound.
absolutely. And his work with like Julie Cruz was fucking intense too. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah. They
beautiful.
worked really well together.
And that's a great,
Mhm.
another great pairing.
yeah. 2022 has been a really shitty year for cool people dying, man. It's not
Yeah.
been good.
But these people are all aging, and they're getting, we're getting up there. 85 is a
Yeah.
good year,
And
good time.
And I have to wonder, because he didn't do the soundtrack to Inland Empire, and I never understood why. And he hasn't done a lot of production, so he had slowed down, maybe
Yeah.
mostly retired.
Sure.
Yeah, I know he contributed to the Twin Peaks Return soundtrack,
Right.
But I don't know
Mhm.
to what extent. So, but either way, a monumental composer who transcended genre with tremendous respect, and we're all sad to
Absolutely.
see him go.
So yes, rest in peace, Angelo Badalamenti. And Herb Deutsch. Because if you wake up from the dead, it's kind of creepy. So don't do that.
Yeah. But speaking of new things, Justin was talking before about this, and it's a fantastic synth that's just been updated. And we're talking about Arturia's Pigments 4.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Pigments 4 has been released. And if you are...
And it's an everything
Yes.
synth.
And if you own Pigments 3, it's a free upgrade. Just like if you owned Pigments 2, Pigments 3 was a free upgrade. So that's nice of them. Thanks, guys. They've tightened the interface down. They've given you different interfaces. There's a light mode. Everyone's all about dark mode, but they went into light mode, which is good. Especially
Starsky Car loves
especially
the light mode.
if you got like some folks with vision issues can't do dark mode.
Nope, they're wrong.
True.
All right, they're wrong, but whatever. Jeff can be wrong too.
Those wrong people have an interface
Right?
that works for them.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
yet you don't have to have that interface. So everybody gets to
Exactly.
be happy. Because
Why do you want people not to be happy, Jeff? What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm not happy, and if I can't be happy, no.
That's what Karen
This sounds
said.
like
I
a you
understand.
problem more than a me problem.
Just sounds like spite. And I'll agree that that's the right way to
Nice.
fly.
There you go.
arguably, I would never use probably that white mode. I do like the sort of
Sure.
more dark
No, I get
sinister
that,
mode.
yeah.
I've always liked the UI on it. I think the play mod is a more interesting UI.
No, I agree. The play mod is fantastic. Gives you a simplified look of things, especially if you're using this thing live, because these complex synthesizers are a little bit complex, and sometimes you just need a couple of knobby things to turn when you're doing live shows. You don't need to get in and go balls deep into stuff. If you want to, you can still use that interface, but
I think they borrowed from themselves, because if you look at Analog Lab stuff, it basically has sort of macro controls on the front.
Yep. They've tweaked the engine. There's additional ring modulator, and in the wavetable engine, Phase now has pulse width modulation, that kind of stuff. They added an MS-20 filter. Justin, I'm sure you're very happy about that. They added a shimmer reverb into the effects unit. There's a super unison effect for, super unison-y kind of shit. There's a built-in bit crusher in there now. They tweaked the workflow. They gave you 63 new wavetables, 67 new samples, 36 new noise types, 3 new wavelength sound libraries, all kinds of bullshit.
They've added some cool sync stuff, and I don't see it in this Synth Anatomy article, but if you watch the demo, the 12-minute one that Arturia released, they talk about it. But one thing that's always been cool about it is the modulation matrix is so cool. You can just sort of drag and drop stuff where you want it, and
it's
cool. So for the sync modes, it's more complex than hard sync and soft sync.
Well, it lets you do weird stuff in the modulation chain. So you can use this sync to sync a square wave LFO to the sequencer or to something else. It's sort of
I understand.
It sort of plugs the back plane together for all of the syncing stuff. So I think it's neat.
I was thinking of oscillator sync, which is different. All right, now I understand.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that a lot of people are using it for sequences, and I would see why.
Absolutely.
Old school one key sequence type stuff.
Yeah, the new presets sound fantastic.
Yeah, the shimmer reverb actually sounds pretty good, and I'm usually on the fence with Arturia's effects, but
you own the Arturia FX package, right?
Yeah, I own the effects package. Though I have an older version, I haven't upgraded the one with the distortion models in there because I'm real stuck on using outboard distortion, and I don't know that I would use a pedal or a plugin for that.
That's completely.
Camel Audio used to have a really good distortion plugin, but Good Lord, that's been like
Yeah.
15 years now.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's free if you're an existing user. They're currently running a special, an introductory price for $99 if you do not own Pigments. Usually it's $200, so it's a 50% off, which is, nice. And that comes with the new Wavelength patch bundle at no cost for a limited time as well. And you can unlock that as well if you're an existing owner. You can grab those too. So a lot cheaper than a lot of plugins. It does require CPU, so you can, if you have a decent computer.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's up to till the Augmented series. It's the only sort of actually created by Arturia, not clone synth, and the fact that they put additive stuff in there, and I just think it sounds really friggin' good. And for someone that owns a ton of wavetable and digital synths, I have to say I'm always really surprised.
I turn to this thing a lot for those
sound.
kinds of for that kind of sound and stuff. So
It is a fantastic sounding synth, and I can see this being like the one solve synth that somebody owns and be completely satisfied with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
For sure.
So there you go. Speaking of plugins, Clevgrand.
That's maybe how that gets pronounced.
I don't know. Clevgrand.
Yeah, I think they're Swedish, so it's probably more like something like. Well, Swedish is kind of sing-songy. It would be like Clevegrund.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get Bo Beats on the line.
All right, get Bo Beats on the line. He'll tell us how to pronounce it, and he'll look very sternly at us. So this is the Tomophone.
Yeah.
Which is this thing where you take audio files and just throw like fucking long ass wave files into this thing, and it will turn them into muckety muck. So they're calling this audio modeling synthesis. So they take audio files and they just they create a whole bunch of teeny tiny little audio files out of an audio file, and then they layer them on top of each other.
This reminds me of Emax's resynthesis, but I don't know if it's working in the same way.
I don't know either.
I tried to dig it. You have to, if you zoom out a little on this Clevgrand, I've used a couple of their plugins. There's one called UC, which is like a vocal synthesizer. Because I'm into that crap. But these guys are almost as weird as Bassel. I mean, like they do some weird shit. Some of it is conventional and fine or whatever, but I don't know. I kind of think it's cool. Although it's just like I feel like people. This is the difficult to market in a way, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, we've already used samples to do, like a granular synthesis and whatever else. It's a particle type stuff. It's like, so what?
Right.
What's next? What do you do with this? So I think they're trying to push envelope. None of the demos wowed me. I'll be honest, but you know what? Like, keep on moving. Someone will figure out how to do something cool.
It could be that they just need to come up with better demos for it. So like, it's kind of like vocoding something. And then with a ton of channels, and then so that you have a lot more control over it. And I've heard people do interesting things with Emax resynthesis, which is similar, but at the time there weren't a lot of other ways to do anything similar to Emax resynthesis, and now there are, because now we have granular. So the trick is like, how do you use this in a way where you're creating something new? Like Native Instruments used to have something called Replica, which was like an advanced delays series where you could have like 1,000 different simultaneous delays, and the way that you would modulate them, you could come up with interesting results. So I think that's what they're trying to come up with here. So this is like very academic, and like I could see like somebody from Urcam finding the right way to run with this.
Yeah.
CRMA, but right now, like it isn't there, but it's an interesting idea, and we'll see if somebody can exploit it well.
Yep. So if you're into this stuff, if you're into this shit, then you're a weirdo.
Or maybe you live somewhere where it's like completely dark from like 6
Yeah,
months
this is
out of the
definitely
year.
one of those kind of synths that's great for people who don't like sunlight ever. It does allow you to create some of that, that warbly kind of weird bullshit effect stuff that's in with the kids nowadays. So I don't know. This has been a very soft synth heavy show. So Jeff is just sitting there going, I don't want to talk about this shit.
Because, chip market. Well, now Jeff knows how I feel when everybody's talking about Apple products.
Well, I think we can all agree that it's okay to slag on Roland.
Oh God, yeah.
For this
Let's
next
talk
one.
about Roland, shall we? So Roland
Only make supplements. They actually don't make anything else other than
boxes to hold their soft synths.
the SP, and amplifiers.
So Roland continues to lead the pack in innovation by putting out a drum machine collection featuring VST versions of drum machines nobody else has ever made before and re-released.
Well, wait. I mean, isn't this just a package of their
This
existing
is just
VSTs of these
yes.
drum machines?
You can actually fucking buy these now. You can buy them. You
It's
can
just
use
that
them
now you'll get a discount when you buy them together.
Yeah. Because you can I use them through my cloud subscription or through Roland Cloud, but you can even in the Roland Cloud stuff, a lot of this legacy edition stuff. You can
this
just
is it.
buy
You can just buy
forever,
these
right,
forever. If you have
Sure. Yeah, you don't need a cloud
$500,
subscription. Sure.
that's $99 per a completely original, never been cloned by anybody else ever. Better drum machine. This is what we've paid for Rebirth to go away for.
Well, I think what you're really getting with this is the integration with the TR-8S.
Yes.
Sure, but all these freaking sounds are already
Exactly.
on the TR-8S, except for the 303 stuff. Does this have that? No.
Yeah, it's just
the drum
it's
machine.
808-606, 909,
909-777.
Yeah, all of these are already they're on the TR-8, and if you have the latest firmware for the TR-8, it has 707, 727, and you can buy the 606 one. I think I don't know if you still can, but yeah, the S already has all this shit. I think the difference is you can use it like a MIDI controller for these things, like a.
So you already have the
something.
sounds in your TR-8S, but in case you wanted to play those exact same things in the exact same way, but on a computer, you want to add an extra piece of hardware, then this is how you go about doing it.
Well, on the 8S, though, is it just samples or is it models?
It's ACB, so
it's ACB.
analog circuit behavior.
Because I know this is ACB, but I mean the ones that come stock
those are
on the
ACB.
TR-8S.
Well, okay. So the
Oh, yeah.
8S is a complicated beast. It's got
Because it does both.
So on the 8, which I sold but I had for many years, was just ACB, right?
Yep.
And then they added sample capabilities in the TR-8S, so you can have samples as well as the model engines, but they have more of a kit world than the 8 did, so you can like mix and match stuff to make kits. But it's still ACB. I think the difference is they were like pulling away from what was cool about the TR-8, because I think now in the sort of hipster resale market, the 8 is more popular than the S, which makes no sense. But there's no screen really to speak of on the 8, and it's all WYSIWYG and it's all hands-on. And I mean, look, I get it. You could control these with it, and it looks like you can bounce back and forth real elegantly if you want to do that. So I mean, it's cool, I guess. It makes some people happy. It makes no fucking sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me either. But I mean, it's Roland being Roland.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know how much it costs to buy all these separately. So maybe
I don't know either, actually.
I mean, do you actually own these instead of it's a cloud-based thing then? Is that what you're paying for?
Yeah, because you can buy an S, the lowest price, the average price
So
is around
for $100
$600,
more
I think,
less,
and
you can buy the virtual versions of them.
For $100 less, you won't be burdened with all that hardware.
Except the hardware.
You're right.
Because everybody hates
Yeah, the
touching
hardware that you need to
things,
run
so
it
yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you folks have ever seen the Pro Synth Network folks. They do they do some streaming stuff. They're pretty interesting. They're a bunch of English cats. But what's weird is that they were talking about this, which is this Arturia needs to come up with a virtual drum machine. And you get into this sort of skeuomorphic issue, right? Whereas like using these plugins, and I do use them because I like the sound of them. I use the 707 one a lot, but I don't like fucking editing it on the screen.
I mean, Arteria needs to come up with a drum machine. What about this Spark?
Well, so I love the Spark. I have both controllers, but I think people are like, you need to. I've always felt like they needed to re-up it, do something cooler with it. They've almost abandoned the product.
Yeah, which makes me think that there was a licensing issue that prevented them from continuing on.
Yeah, I wish that instead of the Origin, they had made a standalone drum machine using DSP, and I think that would have been real cool. But anyway, what do I know? But yeah, I it's fine. I don't. It seems like a cash grab to me.
Roland?
And you know,
Roland, make a cash grab.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because they're like, we're not going to release any analog polys because we don't look backwards, but we're going to release 1 million fucking emulating plugins, and you know, it's like, what?
next they're going to release knobs, little tiny knobs.
Yeah.
Nice.
For $2 each.
Get your shit together, Ron. You can make cool stuff if you want.
What's that, Jeff?
And they're only going to sell them in bundles of 37
Yes.
knobs.
Well, we got one more story here, folks.
Speaking of knobs,
You can now get 50% off Native Instruments Complete 13 Virtual Instrument Collection. You can have them send you an old hard drive full of shit that's last year's model. This is for not Complete 14, but Complete 13, which will give you some of the stuff that they don't make anymore.
Yeah,
You'll get Absinthe. That's cool.
I mean, that's a reason for me not to upgrade to Complete 14 out on its own, because like, well, wait, I get one less thing. Great. I'll pay you to take something away.
do they take it away though if you upgrade?
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I don't know how well it works for mixing products. I could tell you with Arturia, when you have the older versions, sometimes you can't run the old versions because they
Stop phoning.
It won't authenticate to validate your license anymore.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And
They
I
still
believe
sell
that they
stuff
removed
like-
Absinthe from the native access. So I'm not sure, but I think I can probably still run it, but I don't know. I'd have to do it.
Yeah, that.
So, but yeah, but still, there is a reason to get this deal because they didn't offer the 50% off on Complete 14. So if you don't own if you don't own Complete, and even if you wanted to get 14, here you get it for half, and then later on you can upgrade to 14 at a fraction of the price that Complete 14 is going to cost you. So that would be the reason to do that.
It's normally $600. It's
But it
$300
is
bucks.
weird they're doing this.
I said it's normally
What'd you say?
$600. You get it for $300. It comes on a hard drive, so like in a year, when Complete 13 just stops phoning home and it becomes completely useless, you can format that hard drive and use it to put something else on.
So I'm guessing these are mostly contact
Probably,
libraries on this hard
yeah.
drive.
Yeah, so those contact libraries are huge. It's a giant download. I think it's got to be at least 100 gigs.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Depending on which version of Complete.
So it requires 290 gigabytes for a complete installation. Yeah.
So that's a lot.
It's funny. There was a day when people would talk to you. You know, they'd be like, "Look, I'm just getting started. What should I do?" I used to point people to Native Instruments.
I still tell people they should get Native Instruments Start because that's free. I always recommend people get free things, and Start is one of them.
Yeah, it's just like it's
So
very
Start, Vital, Dex,
accessible. Yeah.
Tyrell.
So the trick is that you install it on there, and when it stops working, you just wipe it, and then you can go into and get all of the X Studios albums and put it on that external hard drive.
That's right.
And then you're set.
Yeah, that's what scientists recommend.
Yeah,
I read that.
if the scientists recommend it, it's true. And how much Native Instruments based things are on X Studios albums? Well, none. Oh, Justin, you might have one or two, yeah.
Yeah, I use some contact libraries. I use Farlight, which is
Yeah, and
one
I
of
think
my
I think
favorite.
I think Information Tray
Super
uses some as well. So 50% of the
I was just gonna
releases
say,
on
sure,
Xstudios
that-
use Native Instruments plugins. The other 50% run away screaming from them.
No plugins.
I love Native Instruments, and that's what I use for
Yep.
DJing as well. But I have 0 releases.
Yet. We'll work on that. That's what 2023 is for. So yeah, now between now and or until stocks last or December 31st, whichever comes first, get this hard drive for $300. And that's our show. Yay.
Yay, we did
Our
it.
next show is going to be on the 28th of December. We should do something. Should we do like a best, like, could we
Let's do a best
do
of
a best of
2022 roundup.
2022 roundup, and then we can, maybe we can,
Yeah, we were gonna
maybe we can do some polls, and like we can see, what you liked and the audience.
Oh, we should do Q&A, man.
I'll do a
Oh,
poll right now.
Q&A. We can ask
Wow.
ask each other questions.
Yeah, why
What
not?
if we made holiday songs and shared holiday songs? We made covers.
Well.
I don't know. Or cover. Like, is covering Jingle Bells? Is that even a cover? It's not a cover. It's just performing.
I think it's just
Jingle
performing
Bells.
Jingle Bells at this time, at this point. I think
I think. So,
Well,
yeah. So that would be fun.
no, it's going to be Wombling Merry Christmas by the Wombles.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's number one.
Just Jingle Bells.
just Jingle Bells. We'll just do covers of Jingle
Yeah.
Bells or perform versions of Jingle Bells. I will be doing my usual holiday tradition of
Jingle Crush.
the Carol of the Krell.
That's
So
Krell.
that'll be like 3 days, maybe longer, until I get tired of it. Who knows? Of me firing the ooh ray into the void and see what comes out of it. Ooh.
Solid.
It's become such a tradition, man.
All
I
right,
really.
there's a poll up. If
Oh,
anybody
there
wants
we
to
go.
vote in our
What should we
poll.
do on the 28th? I think that we have Jack out there. D and Control might just be asleep. Rag about Behringer, rag on Roland, Q&A, or news. Well, rag on Roland so far has 100%. Oh, I will vote that. Oh. Jack, before you go, vote on what we're gonna do next here. All right, so 4 people have voted. Okay, now we're up to 6. Now we're up to 8. Wow, I didn't realize.
Because you could
I
use
didn't realize so
channel
many people.
points.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I didn't realize we actually have that many people watching. I think we have 4 people watching right now, and we have
No, I mean,
16.
I have
We have
50,000
17
points that I could
votes,
pull up on this.
All right.
So I think it's Jeff. I think
Jeff is rigging our vote
with his
system.
points.
This is,
300,000
Jeff is stuffing the box.
channel points that I have. Yes, that's what I'm doing.
I have infinite channel points.
Yeah.
Technically, so do I. It seems like I don't think I could conceivably spend all these.
Yeah. No, as a moderator, you
Yeah.
have infinite points. Well, actually, wait. Not you have infinite points for
Channel owners get infinite reports.
redemptions, but I don't know if we lose points when we do voting.
It just says infinite if you're a channel
Yeah,
owner.
I just have infinite. All right, so there you go. Q&A 1 by 15. So in 2 weeks we'll be discussing. We'll be asking and having audience ask. And if we only have 4 people in bots and they run out of things to say, I'm sure we will be able to come up with all kinds of stupid questions we can ask each other.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Jekko. We hope you can make it next time.
Thanks everybody. Enjoy the vulgar holidays. And let's see who we are going to raid over to. Let's see here. Sid Hersey's on. Killer Bay Relay Team is on. And everybody's favorite watch repairman, Mr. Horologist, is on.
Let me see here.
Where do we want to go?
I don't know. I'm feeling horology,
Yeah?
man. I think we should do it.
Nothing beats it's
don't know.
very
That's the
light
kind of thing I
classical
fall
music and a
asleep.
guy that looks like Dr. Venture repairing watches.
That sounds heavenly. That's the kind of shit I
Yeah.
fall asleep to, though. So it's like simulated
Right?
fireplaces and shit.
Relay Team has extreme chaos going on.
Should we go over to Killer Bee?
It's-
I think we should go over to
Let's
Killer
do
Bee.
it.
We usually go over to Sid, but let's go over to Killer Bee tonight. How about that?
It is absolutely like just LSD with audio.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He's good like that. I love him. All right, we're gonna head on over to Killer Bee. He's great to hang out with at NobCon. All right, everybody. See you in 2 weeks. Have fun. Stay young. Drink Pepsi. No, don't do that. Bye.
Ciao.